Hello and welcome to day 18th of my Just Ship It challenge. Today's a little bit later than usually, and it will probably be a very short stream because my little one is still not sleeping. So I just sneaked out a little bit to do my 9 p.m. stream, and but I will not stay too long because she's still not sleeping, so I have to go in there in a couple of minutes. Well, today was Sunday, and I actually planned to work on the tool, but I haven't worked much on the tool because today I dedicated more time working on my podcast, which is very dear to my heart. And I have some exciting news maybe for that as well, because I'm gonna start opening up for sponsorships. I don't know why I wasn't really ready to do that before. I felt like, I don't know, I felt the podcast isn't big enough to make serious sponsorship contracts or partnerships, and for the little audience that it had, it's maybe not worthwhile or something like that. But actually the podcast grew quite quickly in the beginning especially, and so it has quite a nice listener audience already. And I don't know why I wasn't really ready. And then I did I'm mainly talking about my journey also on this podcast, and I felt like I'm not sure if I can share if I'm ready to add ads to the podcast. Maybe I think it's just that, like, I was feeling like I'm selling out a little bit, but I don't think so anymore. I think I'm really ready to do that. I think it's okay to have like a little advertisement there. Maybe it's also because the podcast, and I thought about this quite a bit, is one of the areas where I pay quite a bit for not only hosting but also all the other tools that I have, like the hosting of the website obviously, but also the hosting of the podcast, and then to make the graphics, for example, I have Canva, and to make the transcript I have like I have Descript app. And so I first of all I have quite some software running for the podcast, so it's probably, I don't know, between 150 and $200 per month that I'm just paying for making this podcast. And then there's all this work, because the podcast really takes a lot of work, and I love it, I really love it. But yeah, so I thought maybe I should get a little bit more serious about it. And what it means to get serious is that it also has to somehow be sustainable. And I think right now I experimented with it a lot, because at the beginning I wasn't ready. I wasn't sure if podcasting is actually something that I enjoy, or if it will be the right thing, or maybe I'm more, going into the YouTube thing or something like that. But actually, the podcast really turned out to be my favorite media so far. I think I podcast much more than I blog. I podcast more than I make YouTube videos. And and I'm actually very proud of each single episode that I produced. And the feedback that I get is also really, really good. But I don't feel I'm spending enough time there. I was spending more time on my training business, and I was spending more time everywhere else. Like this podcast was always like a second class citizen somehow, right? But every time I do it, I feel like how much I love it. And so I will try to bring it to the next level. And I think I need some sponsorship for that, because if I know, it helps me a little bit pay my bills, at least pay the pills that I'm having because of the podcast, that would be already awesome. And so it's also, I think, a motivational goal for me to do that. And so I thought, actually, after this Ship It October challenge, I will have like a podcast challenge. So where I try to grow the podcast and involve it more. And yeah, that will be awesome, because it's one of my favorite things that I'm doing. And it's sad that it's not even a side business, right? It's just a hobby at the moment. And so I think if I can activate some sponsorships, then it can actually grow into something else. It can grow into something that I can pursue with more, not passion, because passion is enough there, but I can actually afford to add more time. Right now I cannot, to be very honest, very frank. I cannot add more time into the podcast because I'm already spending so much time doing the podcast, and there is nothing coming out of it. And so I think this will be a good next step for the podcast, making it in a way that I can invest my time that I want to invest there. And so today I created a sponsorship site, and I reached out to the first people that I think might be a good fit. I want to be very deliberate with who I take on to be on the show. Maybe I hope I can do that. And so I'm gonna do some outreach over the next couple of weeks to see if people are interested and what would be a good fit with my podcast. And I really hope this will work out and that it can be a bigger part of my business, right? That it can actually become a part of my business. Right now it's not really a real part of my business. It's maybe a little bit outreach, but more or less it's really just passion because I really like it so much. And so if I could make it something more sustainable, that would be really cool. So this is what I did today. So I reached out to a couple of folks asking if they are interested in sponsoring it. I made a sponsorship page where I described how a sponsorship would look like, and did some research on how that would actually look like and things like that. So this was actually my day today. As I said, I have to run to my little one. I can still hear her asking about me, so I will try to get her to sleep, and maybe then do a little bit of work still on my tool. I'm not sure if I will be able to do that, but I have many plans for tomorrow to do that. And actually I have a new version for my early adopter, much improved. There were some very early, very obvious things that I knew that are not working, and he knew as well that are not working, and I fixed them over this weekend. So I'm really happy to send them the new improved version and get some feedback on it. And so that's it from me for today. As I said, a little bit shorter. I'm just waiting that she comes in here crying, "Mommy!" So I don't want her to do that. So I probably have to go. I'm sorry, I would have liked to stay longer. But thank you so much for joining, and I see you tomorrow, hopefully at 9, if the kids decide to sleep. So bye-bye.